Welcome to all the Pisces rising signs of the zodiac to your horoscope for the month of November 2025. I'm a little bit late uploading your horoscope for the month. Apologies in advance. I've been a little bit busy, but alas, we are here, and I sincerely hope you are doing well. Pisces rising signs. On the 5th, we're having our first lunation of November, which is a full moon in Taurus where it's exalted. And that is the day that I'm celebrating my second year of being a content creator here on YouTube. So I'd like to say thank you to my supporters, to my community, and my YouTube channel. It means the world that people love astrology as much as me. So thank you so much for your ongoing support and interest in one of the best topics in the world, in my humble opinion, astrology. And to all newcomers, welcome to you, where this channel is dedicated to astrological information. If you haven't checked out my community tab and my posts tab, that's where I give a lot of myself in revealing what I get up to behind the camera when I am not recording. So you might be interested in tuning into what I get up to on the community tab on my channel and tune into my posts where you can ask questions and interact with me. Okay, what a month. Pisces rising signs, your chart ruler Jupiter this month goes into its annual retrograde. Saturn and Neptune are co-present in your sign. And this month, Saturn stations to go direct. So there's a lot of focus on your natal fifth house and your chart ruler Jupiter in the fifth being Cancer. And the full moon's exalted in in Taurus, the moon sign where your chart ruler Jupiter is exalted in your natal third house. That's big news for you. And we've got grand water trines connecting with Saturn in your first house, Neptune in your first house, and chart ruler Jupiter. Lots and lots of action in the month of November. So take the video in chunks if you need to. I appreciate and value that our time is precious. Grab a cuppa, grab a bourbon, whatever floats your boat, and let's talk shop first about your chart ruler Jupiter and its transit, and Saturn and Neptune in your first house of Pisces. Okay, so Jupiter transiting in Cancer in your natal fifth house, where Jupiter is exalted, is a beneficial transit. We get Jupiter in its exaltation sign every 12 years. So it's pretty profound. And this part of the chart where Jupiter has been giving and giving and giving, if you will, which Jupiter does. He bestows blessings, he bestows a lot of action and fertile energy, whatever zodiac sign he's in. But when it's exalted in Cancer, what is ripe, if you will, and what's ready for maturation and extension, if you will, and expansion is the natal fifth house of children, if applicable to you, intimacy with romantic partners, recreational and leisure pursuits, and sex. Fun, huh? And the fifth house is what we create. Like we create children through sex, we create intimacy of our own free will, we create an interest in hobbies like recreational pursuits and leisure pursuits. We create that because it fills our cup. We get an exchange of energetics, if we will. What we put into something, we usually get something back that really does fill our cups. And in Cancer, what we predominantly connect with the zodiac sign of Cancer is nurturing and compassion, mothering, and uh, being very compliant in providing assistance in the natal fifth house. So you're focusing on initiating brand new growth in the natal fifth house. That really does tick your emotional boxes with your chart ruler Jupiter in Cancer. It's not without its fluctuations, if you will, regarding like false starts, stopping and starting, like, oh, am I on the right track? Do we need to get some more structure and streamlining going on here? This could all be up for review once your chart ruler Jupiter goes into its annual retrograde, when you're internalizing all the growth and all the experiences to date with people, places, and things and environments that you've been immersing in that really do fill you up from the inside out since mid 2025. You get to embody it and get to go, ooh, how am I dealing with all of this? How do I feel about this? What's happening here is with Jupiter going into its annual retrograde, which he does for 5.5 months, not your first rodeo. You get to just tune into your moral and ethical compass and what direction you're going in. And is it the right one for you? How do you feel about this advancement that can be really flourishing and growing, connected to that natal fifth house, the things that bring us pleasure ultimately? Really nice. Really nice time to internalize and just see how your body is responding in kind to all the exacerbation connected to the fifth house. With Saturn and Neptune retrograding back in your natal first house, uh, wrapping up a really, really long cycle. Neptune over 14 years, nearly 15 years, and Saturn too. This can be about you personally because it's the natal first house of your body, your health, your sense of self, and new beginnings. And with Saturn and Neptune here, just really kicking up a lot of stimulation and asking you to up the ante and advance towards new horizons and experiences, then this it can be quite a good month for you because Saturn stations direct, where he's on his way out, and Neptune later down the line, where he'll be on his way out of your natal first house, and you'll be well and truly on your way come February 2026 when both planets meet on the 20th of February 2026 in Aries at the 0 degree point, the first sign of the zodiac Aries, but that's the natal second house. And that's going to be a really good opportunity for you as a Pisces rising sign to immerse yourself in skill building, developing resources, tuning into your livelihood, what direction you want to focus in on, where do you need to muscle up, and level up and advance towards things that you value. So between now and then, with Neptune retrograde and Saturn retrograde, but Saturn's officially stationing retrograde this month. And then I think you may be a little bit more confident about your horizons and where you're heading. And that gives you sure footing about understanding the responsibility of having ownership, agency, and advocating for you and what you want to begin. So fascinating astrology for the Pisces rising signs, not subtle at all. Okay, so keeping that information as like a footnote, if you will, we're now going to talk about the planets and transits in a chronological order in the month of November. But your focus primarily as a Pisces rising sign is on Jupiter in the fifth house. So you're focusing on children, if applicable to you, intimacy, recreational, leisure pursuits, things that fill your cups is your kind of tonic, and you're developing a relationship with being more expansive and ready to initiate new starts in that area of your natal chart, and tuning into how you're gauging with all of this change, but exciting change at that. Okay, on the 4th, Mars moves into Sagittarius, into your natal 10th house, all month of November, in fact, until the 15th of December. And you also have Mercury co-present in your natal 10th house of Sagittarius as well until the 18th. Mercury's all banged up in detriment, not doing very well in the 10th house. That could be a bit problemsome for Pisces rising signs because Mercury is about finance, travel, and communication. And in the 10th house of ambition, your public facing roles, your public name and identity, your professional industry, Mercury can have you feeling like you need to go the extra mile, like extending yourself, like really going the distance, that can be a little bit nuanced for you, or feeling the need that you had to overcompensate and embellish uh, your your sense of direction, because you may be feeling like you are up against competition, big dogs in your industry. So Mercury can be a bit of a pain in the tent. But Mars in Sagittarius is extremely good from the 4th, in fact, until December 15, really escalating and lifting that 10th house quite positively. So Mars, our planet of action and drive in the 10th house, has us focused on meeting our heart's desires through exploring opportunities, whether that's through travel, communication, educating ourselves, or knocking shoulders with people, places, and things that can help us advance and level up. So, really nice Mars in the 10th, but Mercury is the one that's a little bit um, overdoing it, if you will, which could have you feeling, oh, I'm a little bit too vehement about getting what I want. So just know that it's not an easy transit if you're having a difficult time with Mercury in the 10th house. But Mars here certainly is helping, and certainly helps Mercury later down the track in the month. Okay, on the 5th, fascinating aspects and our first moon of November. We need to go here, Pisces rising signs. Mars is sextiling Pluto. Now, a sextile is a favorable aspect. Mars and Pluto are both powerful planets, and the archetypal connection of a sextile is it's easy to connect. It's easy to seize an opportunity, if you will, is a sextile. And we like sextiles. They're really, really helpful. But I'm a little bit ginger about how confident I am in saying this will be helpful. So this is my subjective archetypal perspective about this sextile from your 10th house to your 12th house on the 5th of November. With Mars in a superior sextile to Pluto, what I'm archetypally getting is it's easy to be lured into something secret or clandestine connected to your career, ambition, public facing role, or your professional industry. Uh, could be a little less than savory on the 5th. I'm just going to leave it at that. I could be completely off, but that's what I'm getting from the 10th house to the 12th house. This is like being easily lured into a dark den or a deal behind closed doors, backyard deals. That could be a little on the 5th. And with the full moon in Taurus at 13 degrees, where the moon's exalted in your natal 3rd house, this is a sextile that's swimming in the background, which is fascinating because the 12th house squares the 3rd house where the full moon is. Now, a full moon exalted in Taurus is one of the best lunations of our year. Any moon phase in Taurus is quite good because the moon's exalted here, meaning the moon functions really, really well. And sometimes exaltation planets have a downside to them. There's always variables. So with the full moon in the natal 3rd house, where the moon's feeling extra special, if you will, and the moon phase being full, it's like a reveal. You can see something for what it is. It's almost like you've gone from the conceiving stage to now you can see the full pregnancy. So with an exalted full moon in the 3rd house of siblings, travel, and education, I'm wondering on the 5th if there's uh, something going on within your immediate environment, the siblings, travel, or education that has you feeling exposed, or someone connected to the third house is exposed. And I'm not particularly thrilled about it. And I may be really losing Pisces rising signs at this point listening. But the Mars sextile Pluto really worries me because the 12th house squares the third house, where you might be really seeing something that makes you less than enthusiastic, that's affecting siblings, travel, or education, or something within the immediate environment or the community. Yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. On the 6th, Venus ingresses into Scorpio, your natal ninth house of adventure and advancement, till the 30th, where the Sun is also co present in Scorpio. So Venus will be in your natal ninth house from the 6th of November to November 30th. Really quick transit for Venus. Venus is at top speed in the solar system at this point. Okay, so now we have Venus in detriment. So we've got Venus going, oh, I'm going to have to get tough. I'm going to have to get tough and get uncomfortable. And in the natal ninth house, excuse me, which is about your moral and ethical compass, what you value. It's about travel, but long distance travel. It's foreigners and foreign places and higher education, where we learn and develop feathers for our academic caps. So with Venus in Scorpio, finding it like really difficult being in detriment in Mars' sign of rulership to jump on board with being okay with not being completely confident about stepping into new experiences, mind, body, spirit, or soul connected to the ninth house can be challenging. So, knowing that ahead of time, it's a great transit to do a bit of fence sitting, not being completely sold on a product, if you will, regarding academia, travel, foreigners, and religion and philosophy and your moral and ethical compass. It's a good transit to be okay with not being okay or confident about your direction. So it's good for hypothesizing and navel gazing about you versus the world at large and how you integrate with it or want to. Because Venus in detriment, she behaves very aggressive and almost covert, like in Scorpio, where she aggressively pursues what she wants and can really suffer the consequences, like attracting all the wrong people, places, and environments for all the wrong reasons. So we don't want to expose ourselves and jumping in headfirst into experiences or connections that overextend us, where we can feel overwhelmed. Venus gets a lot better with her dignity when she gets in the 10th house of Sagittarius. So until the night, there could be all questioning, questioning, and more questioning about you and your place in the world from the 6th to the 30th of the month. And the sun being here as well. And then the sun is really asking the natal ninth house for Pisces rising signs, what do you have conviction about? What is your moral and ethical compass? And being okay with not running with the status quo or people pleasing is well advised with the Sun and Venus in the natal ninth house. Okay, on the 7th, we have retrograde Uranus in Gemini retrograding back out of your natal fourth house and into the third house of Taurus. So we had that exalted full moon. And Venus is squaring off with Pluto. Okay. So Venus squaring off with Pluto in the 12th house. Yeah, this is like, I don't agree with that. I don't want to participate in that. I have a problem with that. Watch out for conflict on the 7th. This could be quite challenging in keeping a lid on something, uh, or holding some sort of information, important information that could rock the boat. And you could feel some sort of pressure to keep things on the down low. It's what I'm getting on the 7th with Venus square Pluto. So wanting to not run with the status quo and conform, feeling like you need to break free from something or someone or an environment. On the 7th is what I'm getting archetypally with that connection, that square from Venus to Pluto. And with Uranus leaving your natal fourth house of home, family, and parents, going back into Taurus in your natal third house of siblings, travel, and education. This is fascinating. So Uranus going back into the natal third house, not your first rodeo. Uranus has been in your natal third house for 6 years. So Uranus is going back in for one last peruse of the terrain, and it's going to be a cracker. Okay. So for dates, Uranus will officially station direct in Taurus on February 3rd, 2026 at 27 degrees and ingress back into Gemini, your natal fourth house of home and family and parents, part of your natal chart, April 25, 2026, where he'll stay put to 2032. Okay, so with Uranus back in the natal third house, Uranus is the awakener, where we go, oh, well, I once was blind, but now I see planet. He seeks liberation and freedom, and whilst he's seeking liberation and freedom, he needs to ruffle things up to move in a different trajectory to advance to a future that's more organic and savory. So we're trying to till the soil, if you will, for one last time, connected to siblings, travel, and education. And with tilling the soil and eliminating anything that makes us feel unsturdy, not practical, not in line with filling our cups up, we get an opportunity to eliminate. And Uranus will certainly eliminate anything that stands in the way of progression. So, rolling with the ups and downs, learning to laugh with the changes is the best way to work with Uranus back in the natal third house of travel, siblings, and education. We've got to just roll with it. But what Uranus wants to bring for one last time, factoring in he was here for 6 years, there is something in that natal third house that needs a serious upgrade because Uranus is all about let's upgrade. Let's throw the baby out with the bathwater and go again. Let's start again. We need something new. And that's what he will be bringing to your natal third house of Taurus before he goes back into your natal fourth house of Gemini April next year. On the 9th, Mercury stations retrograde, his third and last retrograde of 2025 in your natal 10th house Sagittarius at 6 degrees. On the 11th, chart ruler Jupiter begins its annual retrograde in Cancer. Your 5th house at 25 degrees will not station direct in Cancer until March 10, 2026 at 15 degrees. Okay, so this is it. This is the moment where you tune into children, if applicable to you, intimacy, recreation, pleasure pursuits, things that fill your cup. You now get to chill out, tune in, and drop into your psychic self and your body and go, wow, things are really progressing. But how are they progressing? How am I progressing with them? And what structures and streamlining paths do I need to get in place before Jupiter goes direct March 10, 2025? Great opportunity just to sit and immerse yourself in your feelings and your emotions and how are you going to initiate new starts connected to the 5th house that fill your cups? Jupiter retrograde, your chart ruler retrograde is simply making things louder for you, more obvious. And Jupiter is all about the wisdom. So there's wisdom in what Jupiter's been bringing you since mid 2025, and now it's going, check in with that. Don't skim any corners. We need you to be okay, Pisces rising signs, with just tuning into the knowledge that you've developed and you've experienced and how your body's responding in kind about all of this expansion and new starts to the natal fifth house. You've got time to digest, process, and get your compass right, with Jupiter now officially retrograding from the 11th of November. On the 12th, retrograde Mercury conjuncts Mars at 6 degrees in Sagittarius in your natal 10th house. So, angular part of your natal chart is super important. With retrograde Mercury conjunct Mars, this can be a really good day to be quiet, tune out, and eliminate distraction around you so you can think clearly about travel, your finances, and what you want to proceed with when it comes to advancing towards your ambitions and your lofty goals regarding your professional industry, your career, and your public facing roles. It's a day to just be chill, tune in, and travel, finance, and intellectual sparks are up for the taking quite strongly when retrograde Mercury conjuncts Mars. It's a sparky, active day, and that's why it's good to work with planets in transits ahead of time to know it can be a heightening day that can make us feel very exacerbated. So easy does it on the 12th. On the 17th, we have our first grand water trine of November. These have been happening in succession since October 2025. So I like that these keep rolling out and they keep connecting with your chart ruler, Jupiter, which is really nice. Okay, so on the 17th, the sun trines your chart ruler, Jupiter retrograde, and trines retrograde Saturn in your first house of Pisces. And we also have, on the day of our first grand water trine of November, Pluto sextile retrograde Mercury. Okay, this is getting fascinating now. This archetypal combination on the 17th. Let's talk about Pluto sextile retrograde Mercury. I'd like to think of this archetypal sextile between Pluto retrograde Mercury as refusing to be quashed. So it's not a time to be quiet. It's not a time to conform or bend the knee when it comes to anything with your career, your public facing roles or ambition to please or be seduced by being lured into a hive mind thinking with retrograde Mercury sextile Pluto from the 10th house to the 12th house. And with this grand water trine connecting on the same day, it can be about sort of knowing instinctively something's off and could be really quite detrimental to you if you do not express your authentic self or your feelings and emotions on the 17th about something that's very near and dear to your heart. Yeah, interesting day on the 17th. Moving on to the 18th, only the next day, we have retrograde Mercury in Sagittarius, now retrograde out of your natal 10th house and going back into Scorpio, your 9th house, joining the Sun and Venus. And Mercury will station direct later in the month of November. So now Mercury is off the angular part of your natal chart and going back into the natal 9th house. And I think this is fascinating. I like to think of Mercury back in the 9th house with Venus and the Sun as like a reminder to you to know, look, things can advance and escalate quite quickly, but we need to think about the financial repercussions, a travel schedule, if applicable, and we also need to think about, do we have the intellectual skills and depth to feel confident about our career advancement and how we want to be seen and known in the public. So fascinating with retrograde Mercury back in the 9th with the Sun and Venus from the 18th. On the 21st, we are having our second lunation of November, and it is a new moon where the moon is in full in Scorpio at 28 degrees in your ninth house with a retrograde Mercury cazimi. And there's a lot more action after that initial new moon with the sun, but we'll talk about the new moon first with the retrograde Mercury cazimi. Okay, so when the moon is in full, we are talking about people, our body, and the environments that we immerse ourselves in, where we feel like we're out of our depth. In Scorpio, we're feeling vulnerable. We feel, oh, I don't have all the tools. I don't have all my needs. And I'm feeling very exposed in Scorpio in the natal ninth house. So you may be feeling ginger about new people, places, or environments or experiences connected to religion, your philosophy on life, your moral and ethical compass, higher education through like universities, academic schools, travel, foreigners and foreign places. But with the new moon fall with retrograde Mercury cazimi, this is like the necessary step for you to develop a muscle regarding intellectual certainty about your direction and what's good for you, even though it feels like a bittersweet beginning that you're not completely together, but it's time to move and advance. We can't keep staying here, kind of new moon. We've got to move out of this. But I like the retrograde Mercury cazimi helping because retrograde Mercury cazimi is like the sun entices intelligence and to have our intellectual faculties on fire about our life direction and how we connect to the world, mind, body, spirit, and soul, and experiences. So, really nice new beginning, but can feel a little bit, oh no, this is happening kind of new moon. Then the sun moves on and then immediately opposes retrograde Uranus in your natal third house, trines retrograde Neptune in Pisces in your first house. Oh, fascinating. So now the sun is opposing retrograde Uranus in the third house from the ninth house. Uh, this can be quite erratic, contentious, nerve wracking. This feels like nerves with the sun opposed retrograde Uranus. This is like taking a big step that we don't feel completely equipped for with the sun opposed retrograde Uranus. And with it also trining retrograde Neptune in Pisces in your natal first house, this can make you consider archetypally with this connection that you might be returning to an old story or an old narrative that needs to be experienced, although uncomfortable, with these aspects and connections with the sun to Uranus and trine retrograde Neptune. Then the sun ingresses. Oh, so with that, I think it's like going back to go forward is the only way to advance kind of aspects with the sun opposed retrograde Uranus and trine retrograde Neptune. Needing to recover or reconnect with something that can propel you into a new trajectory in the ninth house. And then the sun will say goodbye to Scorpio, leave Mercury and Venus behind, and ingress into Sagittarius, the 10th house, for 4 weeks, joining Mars. Now, with the sun in the 10th house, this isn't subtle at all because the sun in the 10th house on the angular part of your natal chart is super potent, like really, really potent. Okay. This is where we take ownership and leadership. We become advocates and ambassadors for ourselves. We step up to the plate and we take life by, you get it. This is about owning it, having conviction, and going for it. Ambition, drive, and passion to expand and grow and learn and connect and immerse ourselves in this thing called the world and life is going to be highly charged and on your radar with the sun in the natal 10th house. This could also look like, with the sun in the 10th, a father or a father figure is going through a transition. Could be an award, could be leaving a legacy behind, passing on a baton, could be very important to you for 4 weeks from the 21st of November to December 21st with the sun in the 10th house as well. On the 25th, we have Venus conjunct retrograde Mercury at 22 degrees. Good. This is good. This is a good conjunction. Because with Venus and Mercury, they're buddies. They're okay. They're okay together, these planets. And when they're in a conjunction, this is a new start where we don't have all our cups filled. We don't really know the clear road ahead, but at least we are advancing in a new direction kind of day on the 25th. It's like everything's not completely perfect, but at least we're moving. And that means you've got information, a travel itinerary, you've got the finances that you need, you've got your plans on paper, and you're ready to go on the 25th when Venus conjuncts retrograde Mercury. That's actually quite helpful. On the 26th, we are having our second grand water trine of November, and it's Venus setting it off. And this is the day that Saturn stations direct in Pisces. Big day on the 26th. So with Venus trining retrograde Jupiter in Cancer to your chart ruler, we like that, a benefic trine, really lovely. And she's also trining retrograde Saturn. So this is the 9th, 5th, and 1st house. This is all about what do we love, what do we have belief and faith in? And it's easily translated, especially our shortcomings and our distastes kind of day on the 26th of this grand water trine. So heads up there. And Saturn stationing direct in the natal first house. This is like, okay, I'm a Pisces rising. I am taking ownership and control over my life, myself, as new starts, because I'm ready to build a new structure. I'm ready to have discipline, determination about my own life direction. Big moment. Saturn has been in your first house of self for over 2 years, Pisces rising sign. So you're the expert in you. Only you know how Saturn has laid it on regarding the responsibility, taking ownership, doing the hard yards just for you, and now has its final station direct in Pisces and will be leaving your sign. I will not return to Pisces for over 30 years. Neptune will not be returning to Pisces for over 165 years. So your identity, yourself, what you want to begin, new starts for you is starting to come into a form with Saturn now stationing direct. So Saturn has given you plenty of time to develop a muscle of sheer will and learning to establish boundaries with people and even with yourself. So this is really stepping up that maturity that's necessary for you to have what you want, your needs met, your heart's desires actually come to fruition. Because Saturn's been putting you to task. That is his ultimate function. You want it that bad, then you need to show me that you've got this. You can handle the responsibility over you. So big moment when Saturn stations direct on the 25th. You are finally saying goodbye to Saturn and soon retrograde Neptune. On the 27th, Venus opposes a retrograde Uranus and Mercury stations direct at 20 degrees, bleeding into the 27th and 29th. Mercury will be stationing direct. Okay. Venus opposed to retrograde Uranus again from the 9th house to the 3rd house. Not wanting to be disrupted or challenged. This could be a problem on the 27th that needs to be navigated or sorted out regarding siblings, travel, and education. That's having a knock on effect with your philosophy and your ideals, your moral and ethical compass on the 27th. Can be pretty contentious with Venus opposing retrograde Uranus and Taurus. But with Mercury going direct, or Mercury is really good going direct in Scorpio, where Mercury has done a lot of good work in your ninth house, helping you identify what do you want to intellectually engage with, what direction do you want to take, where do you want to travel, what's the cost of it, and how are you going to expand into this thing called life, your life. Pisces rising sign. So now Mercury's direct. Happy days. There's some sort of certainty coming back on board now about how you're going to advance, extend your reach, and immerse yourself into this thing called life and the world now that Mercury is direct. And beautiful, Saturn direct in your first house. Ninth house trines the first house. So I think there's some big stuff going on for Pisces rising signs. On the 30th, Venus trines a retrograde Neptune in your first house, and then she will ingress into Sagittarius, your 10th house, until December 24. Okay, so on the 30th, when Venus trines retrograde Neptune, this is like resuscitating the energy to eliminate distraction, that's fair weather, a waste of your time, and basically tarnishing your well laid plans. So this is cutting things off from the knees that anchor you, kind of trine with Venus trining retrograde Neptune in your first house from the 9th. Then Venus will ingress into Sagittarius, into the 10th house, right at the top of your natal chart with the Sun and Mars. You have a little stellium now going on in your 10th house. Now, when Venus gets into Sagittarius, she is seeking adventure, thrills and spills. She is thirsty for experience in Sagittarius. She values connecting. So with Venus in the 10th house, this is great for knocking shoulders with people in your professional industry that can advance you. You can also have some pretty spicy times in the workplace with Venus in the 10th house of Sagittarius. So I think office affairs, just meeting someone that just ticks your boat when you're working, quite lovely with Venus in Sagittarius. And Venus brings optimism and life force to the 10th house. With the Sun and Mars also co-present, it looks like from the 30th until December 24, the confidence in you leveling up and upping the ante regarding ambition, your career, your life direction is highly focused. But with Mars, Saturn, and the Sun on the 10th house, we're talking laughter, fun, getting things streamlined and structured in the right direction that we want. We're walking the walk, we're talking the talk, we're marketing, we're promoting ourselves, we're getting out there, we're hanging out with people, having parties, and it's just an exciting time with Venus in Sagittarius. But she is seeking knowledge and wisdom. So you may be seeking out people that can provide you quality information that helps your own personal agenda as well. That's not being selfish. We need a helping hand. And Venus in the 10th house is like, yeah, I do need a helping hand and I want to go for it. Because she's been in Saturn and Scorpio. She's like a little bit nervous. So I don't really have everything together. Now in the 10th house, she's seeking someone to go, look, I've got you. So a great time to connect with people that can basically fill up academic feathers for you, um, connect you with the right people to move, or even people that can promote you or your services. Really quite nice. Venus, Sun, and Mars in the natal 10th house. But Venus and Sagittarius is fantastic. Think office parties, adventurous times, traveling with work, and just enjoying different cultures or languages as well. So I like it. It's really, really nice. Venus and Sagittarius from the 30th of November to December 24. Fascinating astrology for you with the planets in transits and the archetypal aspects. Pisces rising signs, I encourage and welcome any feedback. Just pop it in the comments section below if you don't feel confident in doing so in a public capacity. You can contact me at my email, beingcosmical101 at protonmail.com, or you can also connect with me there at that email if you'd like to work one-on-one with me regarding your own natal chart or working with progressions, solar returns, etc. Until next time, Pisces rising signs, have a stellar November, and remember, stay cosmic.